What's going on, Shred Session viewers? I'm here with Vaughn Stoffey and Jacob Schmidt of Defeated Sanity, the most brutal band probably in the world, possibly. Right. But guys, I'm really excited to talk to you. I've been listening to Defeated Sanity for many years now, and it's a real honor to sit and kick it with you guys.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having us.
How have the first couple? This is the third date of like a month-long tour.
That's right.
How were the first couple shows?
So yeah, third date of this tour with one warm-up in Boston. We should say that was just Defeated. Yeah, so far so good. Always stressful to get settled into a new situation. You know, we added quite some gear. We have a new sound girl on this tour. We have never actually had the RV trailer combo. Usually it was either just RV or like van or nightliner and then a trailer, but like this is also new for us. So a little stressful at first. There were a few things we were dreading on the first few days, figuring stuff out. But yeah, as far as the shows were great. Yeah.
Awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, exceptional, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's also just to go off of what Jacob is saying, it's the first time, at least in my tenure in the band, that we've done a support tour of this magnitude. So it's not just the nature of the equipment, but the nature of just, you know, dealing with putting together a different kind of set list with a different intention than, say, when you're doing a headliner, you know?
Yeah.
So trying to select the right kind of material. Obviously, Lille runs point on that, but we all have our input.
Yeah, and it's excuse me. It's also our first support tour at all since like that Origin, well, you weren't yet there for that, the Origin Beneath the Massacre one that got kind of cut short due to COVID. That was March 2020. That was the last time we were on a support tour, period. Since then, we've only shredding headliner tours where we can just kind of make our own rules and play as long as we want and all that stuff. And obviously, when you're a support, you know, you only get like, we get in 35 minutes on this, so it's 8 songs, and that's always so hard to just pick 8 songs.
Yeah. Especially
when you have a new album and you want to play as much as possible.
You got 12 records out, right? So
almost.
Something like that, 10 maybe?
It's like 7 full lengths and a bunch of like, you know, other, yeah. Even that though, it's like, it's so much music, and we prioritize the new album always, but you got to play some old bangers too, and it's just, how do you do that in 35 minutes? So, you know, that was a challenge, but I think we put together a good set.
Yeah, so far the kids have responded pretty good to it. You know, I think also shout out to obviously Sanguisuggabogg for
big time
including us. You know, I feel like we are in a situation where obviously we're representing Defeated Sanity, but we're also representing the very specific aesthetic at which Defeated Sanity stems from in extreme music. So I think trying to find the fine line between, obviously, like Jacob said, presenting the new material to highlight the new album and what we've been playing, but also make sure that we present, you know, an audience that might not be familiar with Defeated Sanity or a lot of our peers or influences with music that is going to maybe draw them in and inspire them to want to not only visit the Defeated Sanity catalog, but also maybe that might
open the gate for the entire subgenre of like US brutal death metal sort of.
Yeah, bands that, you know, we're very much inspired by.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I feel like the metal community is so small. How did the relationship with members of Sanguisuggabogg come about? Like, to get you guys on this tour, was it Josh performing on Aberrant Contraception on the new record? Do you guys know how that went down?
So I can tell you, this idea has been on the table for about a year, this tour idea. I don't know when it was finalized, but for like about a year we were talking about it, and we knew we wanted to do it. They invited us into the tour. I understand that they're fans of Defeated Sanity, which is rad, you know, and they're just like, hey, this is our new album tour, and like I said, when you're headlining, you can write your rules, you can do what you want, you can bring on the bands that you like. And you know, and they wanted us, and we were available, so it just worked out perfectly. And then, funny enough, the feature with Josh actually came after that, but it just all coincided just to hit at the perfect timing with this tour as well.
Yeah, I feel like there must have been some intentionality Might have to
There
cut
you go.
that. Intentionality.
Good one.
Behind.
Is that a word?
Oh yeah,
It is? Oh, yeah.
Intentionality behind them featuring Josh on that first single, with us having finalized the tour beforehand. I think.
Indeed, he's also. I mean, we can say this because the interview is probably not gonna affect any of that, but he's like doing it on stage with them too every night.
Yeah, they've been having him come out.
Yeah,
I was going to ask
rip
that.
it live,
That's awesome.
and it's
Hell yeah.
He's
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
He's doing that.
That's amazing. So the music of Defeated Sanity is some of the most complex in the genre. It's very demanding from start to finish, like pretty much every song. I feel like there might be a couple mosh parts, like in the music, but how do you go about preparing for a tour like this? And because you guys all live in like the four corners of the earth pretty much, right?
For better or for worse.
Yeah. Do you guys get together in a practice room before you actually hit the stage?
Yes.
Like, how do you prepare for this?
We absolutely have to do that. So we always book a little bit of time before we especially if it's like a fly-in. I mean, somebody's always flying in. There's never a situation where nobody is flying in because we're so spread out. So basically, we're flying in, we have to lock down a rehearsal studio. Maybe we know somebody, a friend's band or a room or whatever, or we don't. Like in this case, we just booked the Hellhound Studios for like a day, basically. And normally we even do 2 days, sometimes even 3 days, but that also is because there's always that something can go wrong kind of buffer that we bake into it, like somebody's flight goes missing or the guitarists don't make it and now you're losing a day. And basically the more new variables are being introduced into a set, the more rehearsal time we have to allow. With this particular set on this tour, it's quite more fortunate because we just came off of a Europe tour in the summer. And that was a headliner, so our set literally just shrunk down. We didn't add anything.
That's nice.
We just took things out, and now we're on American soil, so we can play the same set, basically. And, it's completely fresh to the people, and minus a few songs, of course, because the shorter set length. But because of that, we were actually able to just condense everything into one rehearsal, just a kind of a refresh. Especially with the new gear that we've been introducing, making sure everything's cool. Like I said, new sound personnel, they were with us, Lainey was with us, and, just making sure everything's cool. That was just that one day, and then it's out on the road.
Very cool. Dude, how do you prepare for these guitar parts? I learned Impose Corporal and Habitation. It kicked my ass, dude. That
one's a
song
motherfucker.
Killed me, man.
That was one of the first.
Took me 2 weeks to actually get it up to tempo.
That's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good though. That's pretty good.
Well, I was working on some Hate Eternal, so that
I
helped
mean,
too.
Equally as challenging, in a different way. I think in my particular case, I need to put in a little more effort than say Jacob, obviously because of his tenure in the band and his relationship with Lille. Not to say that you don't practice your ass off, but I think for me, I try to regiment my practice and my conditioning, really, like almost like in the way that athletes try to prepare for a season. Like I really try to think of touring like a season in sports, where the off season, the periods of time when I'm not out with the guys, I try to basically over extenuate the nature of what I'm doing with the music so that I'm prepared physically and mentally, given the nature of what touring really is, the lack of sleep and the hustle and the grind.
The things you really can't prepare for, honestly.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, even like you will know now, even when you play it perfectly at home, when you're out on the road, there's all these other factors, and
the intangibles.
It still will take you a couple nights before is lubed,
100%. But I try to get about 4 to 6 hours in on the days that I'm not working, and which when we're doing a full headlining set is basically that covers 2 repetitions through the entire set. So I'll play everything twice. Like if we have 10 to 12 songs in a headliner.
That's even more than that.
Even more than
13,
that, maybe
14,
14 songs. So I'll run everything twice. And really the second pass on every song in the set list is usually a more clinical attack of it. The first is just to kind of see where my hands are at that day, what sections might be more natural versus certain elements or certain riffs or tech things that I might have to really zero in on that particular day. And every day it's different, no different than playing live, It's never one thing, because if it's like you're talking about learning something like Impose or even on the Chronicles material, if it's something that, okay, I have multiple days in a row, I'm like fucking up this part, then I might separate that and just practice that on its own. But as far as the overall regiment, I try to hit everything twice, and I go straight on with it. I have about an hour of like a warm-up regimen as well, just to kind of get the hands going and stuff, but that's kind of the gist.
Very cool. Man, it really is a different thing playing music like this in a chair, in your comfy house or whatever.
Oh, I say that all the time.
Versus being on a big ass stage with all these people, all these eyes on you. You're like, fuck, dude.
The mental game is very different, but also, like we were saying, the sleep deprivation and just the stuff that you put your body through on tour. I always notice that, especially the first days of a tour, and we don't have roadies, right? We're like, not there. So we do everything ourselves, Wow. I mean, we have help from Laney, and sometimes we have a driver. We don't even have one on this tour, just driving ourselves. So
wow.
So we're dragging the gear. Honestly, on this tour, it's been huge help that there's been like stagehand loaders almost every show. But if we're headlining, it's a tier below that in terms of like the venue size, and those venues don't usually come with loaders. So we're loading. So we're dragging stuff around, and from doing the physical, moving the gear, first of all, driving, being focused on that as well. It's mental too, and then doing all that, and then having to switch over into now you're in play mode, and you have to be hyper focused on that and loose. You have to be feel loose and like limber, and it's hard to do when you've been just literally having a workout right before that, dealing with the gear. So that stuff you can't be prepared for when you're just playing at home. And on top of that, of course, like something can throw you off on a night by night basis. Like something is like, oh, there's either a problem, or maybe something that just you hear about your own playing, or whatever it is, some element that is different and you get in your head about, and it can throw off your entire game if you're not careful.
Wow.
The other thing about it that is super important to take note of, I think, is like, when we're at home and we're playing the music, you're in like a stationary situation. Like I practice the shit sitting with like a footstool, like classical guitar players play. Like that's how
I do the same
always
thing.
Practiced. And people always ask me like why I hold or have my guitar strapped up as high as I do.
Me too.
And
to
have it so the headstock's always in line with my line of sight. Classical shit, But
it's also this for me. Like I can't do this.
No,
we play so much up there. I have to.
You need to have the
better angle.
Totally
kill your wrist. Yeah.
But the thing that you also don't have going when you're at home practicing, and I think the reason that I know we both try to be over prepared, I think, as far as the playing is, you don't really have the performance aspect. I think something that Lille has always stressed to me, and I'm sure he stressed it to Jacob when Jacob was first coming up many years ago now, is this notion that the performance, the delivery of the music, the headbanging, the just the delivery, the brutality, like that's not something you can practice necessarily in the same way. Like you can, maybe do some of the motions at home, but just the intensity of the show, especially on a tour like this where people are just, going ape shit on it every night. It's like the adrenaline, the need to move your body in a way that it's not really naturally supposed to move, but you're compelled to do so because of the nature of the music. I think those things also play in a factor in the performance environment live versus when you're at home. So if we can deal with the objective elements of playing the music to the best of our ability in preparation for tour, I think that gives us the ability to, when we're playing the show live, maybe not focus on those things because they're already dialed in, or on autopilot, and you can focus on.
It gives you a solid ground. It gives you solid ground, and then the other elements are just less likely to throw you for a loop. It can still happen, but for sure.
You guys played Brutal Assault. Was that over the summer?
Yeah, that was actually the last show on that Euro tour.
I really enjoyed I think it's 3 songs, but I really enjoyed watching that. I got super stoked. Put it up on the big screen at home, and just my wife is like, "What is this?" Like, I'm like, "This is my favorite band." You know?
Oh, wow. My boy.
I was like, this is,
you have great taste, Drew.
Yeah, that video got us great responses. Like, so many people are asking for the full set. I want to see the full set too, but
I'm sure they have the files. Hopefully they have the files. We want to see it. The people need to see it.
Shout out to Brutal Assault also for featuring us.
What a great festival, man.
Yeah,
like, I love the Suffocation 2022 or 2023 performance.
For sure.
I love that video. Their drummer is just unreal.
Yeah, they're super pro. That whole team of production and everything, hospitality, they're just amazing.
So, Jacob, you've been in the band since 2005. Is that correct?
That is correct. I mean, we're talking technicalities. I've been on that promo 2005 as a session bassist because I wasn't able to commit yet. I was still in school, and I basically recorded those 3 tracks on that promo 2005, but I didn't actually play live with them till a year later.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I guess the internet says I've been a member since 2005, so that's cool.
True.
I'm on the record in 2005, so there you go.
Cool. How did you first meet Lille? And I guess his father was in the band too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course. And Wolfgang was in the band, and Jens was... the 4 of us, 5 of us then with Christian. And so really what happened is that if I go back just a couple more years, I saw Defeated Sanity live. Never heard of them before. I just go to a show. I was like, how old was I? 16. And I just go to underground shows in and around Berlin. So there's this show with Defeated Sanity headlining and a bunch of Berlin local brutal death metal bands opening. At the venue was called Kato, later on called Binu, and I think now it's closed. And I was just there, and they were like, I kid you not, there were like 12 people in the room, and it's a mid-sized venue, but Defeated blew me away, of course. The old lineup with Tino and Kelly on vocals, like the prelude lineup.
Was Munzner in that?
No.
Oh, he was gone by that
Munzner was already gone. It was the
gone.
prelude to the Tragedy lineup with Wolfgang on guitar, Tino on bass, Kelly on vocals, and Lola. And they blew me away. They didn't even have an album out yet, but it was like, it was not. Now I knew who Defeated Sanity is. So a year later, give or take, they released an album. And of course, now being aware of this band, I bought it right away. And actually, first I heard the Liquefying Advanced track, and I was like, whoa, right? Had to buy it. Around that exact time, I met Lille for the first time. And it was through Marcus. So Marcus is another very good old friend of mine. He was a drummer in my band at the time, Cerebric Turmoil, at that time. And Marcus went out one day, and he's like a huge brutal death metal fan, and obviously Defeated Sanity he was aware of. And anyway, he ran into Lille at some show, but I wasn't there. Lille was also playing in some other band called Sin or Speed at the time. Maybe it was a Sin or Speed show, I guess. So they were talking, and Marcus reports back to me, yeah, I met Lille, and Defeated Sanity, he's a cool guy, and would talk music all night, and cool. So maybe the next weekend or so, we all basically got together, and we all talked music and hung out at some other show, because, shows in Berlin, like every weekend at the time, there was like some death metal show. So basically, that all happened within a few weeks, and then just the next month, and this was at the end of 2004, beginning of 2005. So I met him in December 2004, which is pretty much the time that Prelude came out. And then 2005, he came out to a show of my old band, just to see me play, because he didn't know who I was until then. So he saw us play, and after the show, he comes to me and asks me if I want to join Defeated Sanity. And I said, I'm honored, of course, and it's amazing that you're asking me this, but I was like, I don't think I can commit. Defeated Sanity was a bigger deal, so I knew that it was going to come with responsibilities, touring, etc. I was like, I'm still in school, I can't do it. But we stayed in touch, and when he still tried, he went through other options that he had for bassists at that time still. None of them worked out, and then he basically came back to me like, you know what, I need you, even if you can't join right now, I need you to record this demo if you can do it, because I can't find anyone else who's capable. So I learned the songs. He showed them to me on, nothing was tabbed, of course. It was all just, showing.
Memory.
Yeah, all memory and showing it fretboard to fretboard, right? And, recorded those 3 songs. And, yeah, and then about a year later or so, I was finally free to go on the road with him as well.
Wow. That's incredible, man. And one of the things I love about Defeated Sanity is the bass is always doing something different than the guitar. It's not just doubling. It's not like the third guitar in a metal band like a lot of bands do. Our first question is, like, are you writing those parts? Did you write a lot of the bass parts? And what's your process for coming up with something that's like almost like counterpoint to guitar?
So it always depends. Sometimes Lil will come with a bass idea and I would just work it out together. Other times I come up with the bass line. Other times maybe it's simply the guitar riff that happens, you know. But like you're saying, a lot of times Lil will have a drum beat already figured out. And because, you know, he is just like, when he writes a song or a riff, he already knows the drums pretty much. It goes together, you know. So he's able to like play those drum beats, and they might, you know, get refined a little bit here and there, and sometimes that's a process together as well. But yeah, usually I choose my bass lines to go along with the drums more than the riff in a lot of instances. So
That's
really,
fascinating.
Yeah. Or honestly, there's situations where on the album I will do a bass line, and then we go into playing this song live, and we decide, you know what, it's actually more advantageous if the bass plays a second guitar, or a combination of the bass line and the second guitar. So sometimes I do different things live than I do in a studio to supplement that missing second guitar, so that
Gotcha.
also happens.
Wow. It's almost like you're improvising a little bit.
I mean, it's
Maybe.
all, in the end, it's all checked out, of course. Like we do nail it down. There's always that, you know, the process of figuring out in which, you know, you improvise until something is good.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, with this kind of music we're playing, a lot of people always think it's like, oh, it's jazz, but, you know, it's not, because it's composed, you know. There's the most freedom is probably the drums, because you can alter the drums the most without altering the song. If you alter the guitar or the bass, it makes it something different, really.
And Lille, out of everyone in the band, by a large margin, is really the one who's improvising night to night in the live scenario with his drum fills. You know what I mean? It's like, I guess there's one particular moment in the set during the outro of Temporal Disintegration off the new record.
That's with the bass, like ostinato thing that you play.
Yeah, and that really features Lille in I would say the closest moment, at least in the current set list we're running for this tour. That's like the most improvised it gets.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's certain patterns that, you know, he's got in the pocket, and he might switch it up and do it a little bit like this, a little bit like that. But yeah, it's a little more free and open for sure.
And once Jacob and I, in conjunction obviously with Lille, decide on how we want to orchestrate the live presentation of the music with the limited assets of just the one guitar and the bass, once that's established, that pretty much stays fixed, I would say. I don't think...
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I think it's a double-edged sword, because obviously the history of metal, which is an offshoot of hard rock, is a two-guitar music, right? But I also think it's a paradox, because part of what I think the sound of Defeated Sanity encompasses, the thing that separates it, is the fact that there's so much orchestration happening just between one guitar and one bass. And, you know, you watch Jacob play, the way he operates in the higher register of the instrument above the 12th fret, often matching, to the best of our ability, a similar register, so we can replicate the two guitar,
the actual harmonies
between two guitars on the album. Like, I think that kind of gives the band a certain sound that you're not really, you don't hear that in a lot of other bands. So it's a paradox,
not in metal,
you know.
Rock and like prog rock, way
you know,
more
fusion.
Having one guitar is very common, you know, for those bands. But for like metal, it's usually like you have the two guitars, you know.
Exactly. Well, dude, before you joined Defeated Sanity, you were already like a pretty accomplished guitar player. I mean, you'd have to be to join a band like this. But it's my understanding that you played mostly like jazz stuff. And you kind of discovered the band from a guitar lesson with Ben Monder. Is that right?
Well, not a lesson. Ben and I...
You were just hanging out with him?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So I studied formally, quote unquote. It's funny to say that now, given my relationship with Ben.
Yeah.
But formally, I studied with him when I was also attending New England Conservatory. in Boston, like when I was like late teens, early 20s, and then I moved to New York and kind of just developed a relationship with Ben as just another guitar player in New York doing the straight ahead circuit. And very similar to Jacob's circumstance and Josh's for that matter, it was the kind of thing where I was starting to take an interest in what my understanding at the time was of death metal, which I guess would have been like things I was hearing on the radio. Like I listened to a lot of the Seton Hall radio station. I forget the actual numerical station, but it's a really great like metal and hardcore radio station at Seton Hall, and they were playing like Gojira and things like that, which to my novice metal ears, like that was like the heaviest thing I'd ever heard. So I go to Ben's house, and I was we were working on some kind of harmony stuff, some things that I had questions about that I wanted to discuss with him. He's like, "Oh, come over to the house, we'll hang out, whatever." During that visit to Ben's, I was telling him that I'd been getting into this kind of music. He was like, "Oh, you need to check this album out," and it was Passages of Deformity, right? And as soon as I heard Initiation, like I was telling you before, like I kind of have this like 30-second rule / relationship with a lot of music, but especially metal, where it's like in 30 seconds, if it doesn't grab me by the balls, like it probably won't, Yeah. And I think that's partially because when I first heard Passages, it was so immediate, the impact, and then just by happenstance, they happened to be in town.
I wasn't.
Or Jacob was not.
I was
Yeah,
not.
Weber was playing bass, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
The funniest coincidence.
But they were doing the Bloodletting tour, and playing all the Dharmata material from the first Dharmata EP. And Ben and I went down, got there just in time to see Defeated Sanity, and I think from that moment on, I just knew that I had to go full sick. You know what I mean? Like that was the only way.
Break out the brutal stuff.
And Ben gave me a stack of CDs to take home that same day, and it was Passages, Festival of Death by Brodequin, Closing of a Chapter, The Live Suffocation, live in Quebec City, Pericletus by Deathspell Omega.
Oh gosh,
yeah,
what a great record.
Jeez. Didn't know Ben wasn't into that stuff.
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time. The dissonance and the harmony in that, and then I think None So Vile.
Man, classic.
Yeah,
and
to me, it was like I had no idea what the fuck was going on. Yeah. Obviously, the first thing that hits you about this kind of music is the drums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, but with Lille, it was this fascinating thing because, like, on one level, he was doing things that I didn't understand, which are actually kind of the fundamental things that you hear in death metal, right? The double kick stuff, the blast beats. What I could relate to, which I think was kind of the connective tissue between where I was then and where I would inevitably end up, was a lot of what people I think would dub the jazz, the fusion elements of Lille's drumming, in conjunction with the nature of the actual melodic material, like the riffs and what the note choices were and how it all interacted rhythmically. And Ben put me onto that, and that kind of sent me on my way to inevitably ending up with the boys now. Crazy.
That's such a cool story, man. And Ben is an incredible guitar player.
Yeah, shout out Ben Monder.
Yeah, his sense of harmony is just so
and Alex
insane.
Weber.
And Alex Weber, yeah for sure.
Alex
we love
Weber,
you, Alex.
man. Yeah. Gosh, I could go on and on with questions. You guys got time for a couple more questions?
Whatever you want to do.
I mean, they're going to kill us because we're not helping at the merge, but that's okay.
That's all right.
One thing that we were talking about outside of the RV is like a lot of the people coming to see Defeated Sanity now are like younger kids. Do you feel like the new generation is catching on to what you guys are doing?
Honestly, on this particular tour, we're lucky that, we got bands like Sanguisuggabogg. They're bringing in the new kids, like we're at this point, I feel like we're a legacy band. So there's we're bridging the gap sometimes, and obviously there's new kids interested, but we're not at the forefront of like what the kids first hear that draws them into. Like we're like a few layers, like a few circles of hell further down in the pit.
At least,
Come down here, children.
So basically, Sanguisuggabogg, they're so hip right now. They're bringing a crowd that probably has never even known that something like Defeated Sanity existed, and we benefit from it by being on this tour because hopefully we can open their ears and eyes and pocketbooks so that they buy
Heck yeah, get some merch, people. Buy some merch. Order it online. Bandcamp, right?
Yeah, no, it's but yeah, in general, I feel like while our old fan base has stayed with us, has aged with us, there's always new people coming in, new kids coming in. So now you go to a Defeated show and you have like dads bringing their children along and stuff like that.
Last night,
the children are all about the brutal death too.
Yeah,
so it's like they're raising, basically our old fans have now basically brought up an entire new generation that is into that shit too.
You know, I also think, like, to the Bogg's credit, they present the texture. I mean, Sanguisuggabogg, it's an amalgamation of many elements and subgenres of extreme music, right? But texturally, especially in regards to the guitars, they definitely have incorporated the brutal, rancid, scooped sound, you know, and they're tuned so low, and this thing, rancid.
It is. It's pretty
in
mean.
the sickest way.
Pretty mean.
But I think that, you know, we have an opportunity here to maybe reach this new generation that are hearing this texture, you know what I mean? The texture of brutal music, but might also not be aware of where that texture comes from and the bands that have influenced not only us, but Sanguisuggabogg and other bands that are trying to kind of bring that sound back into extreme music. So I think maybe these kids are getting an opportunity to see something that's a little more evolved in that direction, like the school that we come from and Defeated, you know, the real technical, brutal death metal thing. But they already have the texture in them. You know, they're already familiar with the texture. They really dig it.
So that can be an acquired taste.
That's an acquired taste in of itself.
The tone, the vocals, you know, all that. Like, you know, people will usually they have to get acquainted to that. They'll hear it for the first time, like, what is this? I can't hear the lyrics. What is going on? Like, they don't like it, you know.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, some people obviously maybe they love it right away, but I feel like too many people is sort of an acquired taste where it's so unfamiliar that you have to kind of, you know, lift the veil and see what's behind, and then you fall in love with that.
It's amazing. I mean, I think what I love about you guys is to actually put like fusion and classical music influences into brutal death metal. Like it was like a paradigm shifting thing for me, and in some regards I was just kind of bored of just repetitive death metal. And then I heard like Ben Monder, I took a lesson with him. He was the one who showed me Sanguinary, and I was like, this is really inventive stuff. Like this, I was hooked immediately, dude.
That's sick. So you guys both know Ben too.
Not as well as you do. I took, I think, 2 lessons with him just over the internet.
And he showed you Defeated Sanity too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I was like, I play metal, you know. And
Ben is a real.
He's the biggest Defeated Sanity fan I know.
How you say he's the Defeated Sanity evangelist at this point?
He is.
I love it.
He is the evangelist, the number one.
Wow.
I watched an interview of, I think it was you and Lille at a festival. It was with who's the muscle guy on YouTube?
J-Dog.
That was Lille and I did the J-Dog interview.
Was that you?
Yeah, the Maryland Death Fest.
I love that guy. I love his stuff. It's hilarious, and I love how controversial he gets too. But one of the things that you guys talked about in that interview was like talking about how deathcore is like dance music. And I feel like since, like, I don't know if you remember that, but
I wasn't in the interview.
I remember.
Oh, you weren't in that one. Okay,
I remember.
Okay, yeah. And he was just talking about, J-Dog was talking about how it's like fucking dance music and stuff, and it pisses him off, and it was hilarious. But I feel like since the late 2000s, really, like metal production has been obsessed with like drum samples and guitar patches and like getting everything to sound as perfect, cutting like the transients, you know, up, so it's really tight. But now we have bands like Sanguisuggabogg and of course you guys and several other bands that are just putting out these raw recordings. Like, what is the reason for that shift, you think?
I don't know what the reason is, but I love it, and I've been basically hoping for that to happen because people will have to burn out eventually on this clinical stuff. So I guess the reason would just be that, you know, trends are tides, you know, they come and they go. So, you know, once the tide rolls past, you know, there's going to be the next wave coming, and usually that's like it pulls and pushes and it goes in the other direction. So I was brought up in the death metal world when things were just starting to get really, really clinical, technical, and Necrophages being one band.
Yeah.
Spawn of Possession. And then all, like, the whole unique leader shift, you know, Fallujahs and Facelesses and all those, like, this perfect, squeaky clean death metal became the thing. The Career Birth changed their sound to become that, you know. Like, so many bands assimilated to that perfectly clean sound. I was never a fan of it. It never reached me. I mean, I did like some Spawn, the early stuff, especially... Sure. But also them and Necrophages, they kind of originated this, and, you know, they're the forerunners, so that's a little different. But then it became just a bandwagon thing, and it just had to happen. And I noticed the shift when somehow it started with bands like Dead Congregation becoming huge, Blood Incantation, you know. All of a sudden, Immolation and Incantation were hip. Gorguts was hip, you know. Gorguts all of a sudden got really hip, but because they have that organic, that slimy, earthy sound. So that whole so-called old school revival thing that really happened maybe 10 years ago or so brought that in, and then it crept into brutal death metal. And now there's bands like Sanguisuggabogg who live by that philosophy. Like, I love that these guys are not playing with a click track. There's no backing track BS going on, you know. It's just actual played music, and that's the way we do it too. That's the way it has to be, in my opinion. And maybe we're now a little bit the benefactors of that tide shift, because I do know that when the tide shifted towards the technical stuff, it shifted away from us, and we saw other bands get way more attention and praise, and we were just called sloppy. And, you know, like, you could read the comments on Defeated Sanity videos, or like comments on like album recordings, and they were like, sloppy, you know, it's not tight and it sounds like shit and you can't hear the riffs. And like, you know, that was the time where everything had to be so clean, or else it was just, you know, people wouldn't want to touch it. Now it's come back, and we've just stayed the same, sort of.
Yeah.
And we're actually very happy that now there's a bigger or a greater understanding of what we have always been doing, and a greater appreciation of that.
You know, I also just want to throw in, just to extend on everything that Jacob's saying, I think at least in regards to the generation that are discovering this music and kind of leaning more toward the rancid, you know, organic production and subsequent organic delivery of the music. I think, you know, young people today live in a world that's so hyper-processed. Like, there's so much hyper-processing and everything. Everything's fake, right? Everything's
McDonald's
fake.
is so
everything.
So
and the
fake.
things that they watch, the things that they read, and the things that people tell them, and it's just all fake, and it's all real polished and clearly distorted from what reality is. You know, obviously in conjunction with the fact that the world is in a chaotic and volatile state, which it has been for quite some time, maybe forever,
extra
but
today,
extra
though.
at least, you know. So I think that might also have a relationship to why this generation in particular, who are, you know, about 10 years younger than me and Jacob, give or take 10, 15 years younger, are so drawn to it, because it is in opposition to, I think, of a lot of the things that they realize aren't important or aren't real. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, to me, the thing that drew me into death metal when I discovered it, and maybe this is the same for Jacob, was equal parts, obviously, the musicianship, the virtuosity, but also the spirit of it. Like, death metal is a feeling, and it's that feeling is not supposed to be clean cut. Like, that
supposed was to run opposite to the mainstream.
It's supposed to be this evil, rancid, chaotic, pummeling thing that it's, you know, when I first listened to Passages of Deformity, like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Yeah. Because I hadn't learned how to listen to music in that register. It didn't matter, because what was hitting me was the spirit of it. Yeah. And, you know, Jacob obviously is a veteran. I occupy a different situation, but I think the benefit for me has always been, because I didn't grow up in the scene, I don't really have to play into a lot of the dogma and the politics, but it also allows me to kind of cut out a lot of the stuff immediately that, you know, I think maybe young people feel the need, or maybe they don't feel the need to, but they organically, you know, the channels that you go through to discover extreme music. Maybe it's nowadays Gojira or Children of Bodom, bands like this like 10, 15 years
long
ago.
Time ago, yeah. Now it's Lorna Shore.
Lorna Shore, whatever.
That's
but
what's happening now.
Gateway shit, right? That eventually might lead you to the music that we're making, or like-minded bands. And again, it's not processed. It's not. It's what you see and what you're hearing is what you get, especially in the live delivery.
Yep.
And last thing I'll say about it, I think, in regards to the show, like, death metal is something that you need to experience.
Yes.
And you need to see it, not just hear it. Like, my bag has always been, like, to bands that, are using all of the backing tracks, the kicks, and a lot of bands now are using guitar tracks. Like, they're not even playing their guitars. They're not even plugged in. It's all automated. Like, if that's what you want, why would you spend money on a ticket? Just stay home and listen to the fucking record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when you come see Defeated Sanity, every night's different. Yeah. Every night is a new experience,
That's kind of like jazz, right?
It is. And that's how it should be. Like Electric Church, you know what I mean?
It should be live,
Yeah.
Live music should be live.
Yeah, it should be
otherwise
live.
It's still music, but it's not live music.
Yeah, it's a feeling,
And a lot of bands, it's the boundaries of what constitutes as live music are shifting with a lot of bands, where like guitars, vocals, whatever on tape, just running along to the band, or you know what I mean. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, those are great thoughts on that topic. And one thing that I've learned just doing the show is that there are bands that have like high streaming numbers, and then there are bands that might have like moderate to low streaming, but everybody shows up to their show. You know what I mean? Because they want to actually be a part of the community. That's something that I've noticed. Like, it's just interesting, Some people have it both ways, though. I would imagine Sleep Token.
Sure.
It's all of the above, but. Yeah, dude, I love what you said in your Rigs of Death Metal interview. You were just like, I practice up to a certain point, but then I just freaking send the riff. I send it. Like, I just love that, bro.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the interview about pre-prep versus tour. It's like the kids, or even the older heads, or people our age, whoever, the people that come to the show, I don't think they come to see us execute it note for note. We try to impose that expectation on ourselves, you know, because that's what we're about as
Everybody
musicians.
Has standards,
Yep.
We hold ourselves to the highest standard possible. Hopefully the music reflects that. But when it comes to the show, the prerogative of Defeated Sanity is always going to be energy. And you have to make a cognizant choice of what you're going to prioritize, right? And I think for us, collectively, we believe in the spirit of the show, the spirit of the music being at the forefront. And if we have a perfect night, or we get it at 98%.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah, it never exists for everyone out there.
98% is good.
Maybe
It's
98%.
perfect.
I've never had a perfect show. Have you ever had a perfect show, Jacob? Maybe one?
No.
Okay.
I mean, actually, damn close, a few for sure, but
we've had some hot nights though.
Yeah,
we've had a couple where all four of us were like, we were firing on all cylinders. But that's not what it's about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what the record's for.
That's what makes it fun, man. Like, trying to outdo yourself every night, and trying, like, the music is so challenging. Like you said, you'll never get it perfect, but it's fun to show up and play the tunes and try to be like, I gotta get that one section
if
down.
you got it perfect every time. You'd be bored by it.
And the people don't want you to. They don't want to come and see you be perfect. They want you to come and be the music. Like, they want the spirit. They want to see you raging. They want to see you expelling the energy. John Longstreth, who's a friend of ours and an amazing drummer. Shout out to John Longstreth. Had a big influence on me before I joined Defeated Sanity. I don't know if I would have been able to play, or at least convince the guys to give me a chance to play in Defeated Sanity if I hadn't had my time jamming with John and him helping me with technique stuff, especially in the right hand, and the picking and things that he thinks about on the drums that kind of carry over to things on the guitar. But anyways, where I'm going with this is he said something very astute, because his father was a professional jazz musician, so he kind of understands the culture of jazz. And he said that, jazz is the kind of thing where you as an audience member are kind of eavesdropping on a conversation between the musicians, versus metal and especially death metal, and especially in Defeated Sanity, it's a conversation between the band and the audience. You know, that's the exchange of energy. And I think ultimately, at least in my own focus when I go on the stage, yes, you try to be as prepared as you can be. You over prepare when you get home so that when you're on the stage, you're thinking about one thing, and that's the moment. And conveying the spirit and the energy and the maximum brutality to the highest level possible, because that's what they're there for.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's what they're there for. They're there for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a religious thing. You know, that's what religion should be. It's like a shared experience. Yeah. You know?
Church.
Electric church.
Of brutal death metal.
That's right.
Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for answering all my questions.
Thanks,
this has been something. This is a watershed moment for me, for the channel. I've been talking about you guys to all my friends at local shows, and it's just cool to actually sit down and do this. And it's going to be huge for Shred Sessions to have you guys on. So
can't thank you enough.
Hey, very honored to be here.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, seriously, it means the world to me. I'm super stoked to see you guys just destroy tonight. I might have to get in the pit and ruin some people. We'll see.
Yeah.
But this is Defeated Sanity. Come check them out on tour in November here with Sanguisuggabogg, Despised Icon, Corpse Pile. Some amazing bands all over the U.S. Make sure you go.
Cheers,
Peace.
guys. Thanks.
Make some noise, motherfuckers!